Once again, this is Where Is My Mind, a podcast about mental health and the arts. I'm host and producer of the podcast, Christopher Orangeo. All episodes will be available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, and Amazon Music. Once again, this is Chris Orangeo, and thank you for supporting. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Where Is My Mind, a podcast about mental health and the arts. And today, I have the pleasure of interviewing a fellow artist, a friend of mine who I want to say we met in like 2019. We officially met in person in 2019, but you know how this artist life goes. You meet someone on Facebook like in 2016 and you come in contact with them, and then you eventually cross paths at a festival. He's a actor, writer. I'm sure you've directed before. You're a producer. Man, you know, your acting style's something I really enjoy watching. Between the first project I saw of yours and in 2019 at the festival, where you played like a version of one of my idols, Chris Farley. I have the pleasure of talking with Gerard Garilli. What's up, man? How are you?
Chris, how you doing, brother? Thank you for having me.
It's so weird being like formal right now for a second, because I feel like every time we hang out, we're always just laughing about some shit, just something, and all that. But I had the pleasure of being on your feature that's in post production now, Dress Code. I know there was about a 20-day shoot, and I was there for, I want to say 4 or 5 days. And it was pretty sweet, man. I found out, I started filming around the time I found out I was going to be a dad, and it was like right after like my stepdad had the stroke. So like I was going through all this stuff, and then like I hopped on set, made like instant friends, like really with like you, and Richie for sure, Richie Renero, and then like Pete, even towards like the tail end, like I started really getting to know everybody. And it was just like, and at the last shoot date, Joe was like, "Oh, look, it looks like I have to listen to a new podcast." He shows me he's listening to like my podcast at work. Like everyone was just reading, like really cool. You asked me about any DPs for the project, and I said my good friend Andrew, and just being on set those 4 days, I could see how well you guys were all working together. So yeah, man, I just at first I want to do thank you for hopping me on, and I do appreciate you bringing me on. But dude, that was one of the most fun projects I've been on, and I was only on for like 4 days. I just loved everyone around you, and like you could tell like all of you guys were like super close and tight, and I think that's really important in this industry.
Oh, absolutely, Chris. And I think that was the goal. Like Peter and I have worked before, and we kind of, and some of the other actors in the film, we've all worked together, and I try to keep a tight knit crew, and I want to make sure everybody's comfortable on set. And I'm a firm believer of family. So like, even when you're making a film, you want it to feel like a family environment, like a close environment, especially when you're like covering heavy material.
Yeah.
It's not certainly a comedy. You want to try to make it as loose and comforting as possible. So I thought of you for when me and Peter were, working with the script. I wanted you in this film, and I told you that when we met in 2019 at the festival, that I have this idea. I have a writing partner and a friend, Pete, who played in Hard Laughter, and it came to fruition, and it was really smooth. And I have to thank you for this, man. You were a big part in helping me find Andrew, who delivered, and he's also editing the movie, any
Yeah.
film, you know. And he's like, I feel like he's like a family member now, and as I feel the same way as I feel the same for you.
Yeah, no, we're all trying to develop something too together afterwards, like a smaller project. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I showed up to set the first night, and Andrew just hands me this massive bottle of whiskey. He's like, "Happy birthday and thank you for getting me this job." I was like, "Dude, not a problem. Like I think it's gonna be awesome." And I told Andrew like, I never worked with you. I'm just going based off of like the encounters you and I've had. And I remember, like, I don't know if you remember this, like, or if it sticks with you as much as it sticks with me, because you're around your dad a lot. I feel like your dad, I'd run through a fucking brick wall if, like, for your dad. Like, you could tell he was a coach, like you could tell, like he just gets you all fucking fired up. Like he was at the festival, and he's like, "It's one set of eyes, and then your life can change." I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" Like I was so jazzed up about that, and he was having a good conversation. He's always asked about my wife, and he's very awesome. But like he was repeating that on set he was repeating that on set. The like I said, you filmed 20 goddamn days of this. I was a part of a I guess the cast part of it where you needed only like 4 or 5 days. Every day I was there, your dad Sal was like just fucking like gung ho about it, and I just love that energy a lot. And I could tell, just speaking with you, I was like, oh, I know where he gets it from. It's very, it's very very inspiring. And I could tell that it was a family, family oriented thing, man. Like I was talking to Pete, I was like, Pete and I seem like we're one and the same. We're sports nuts, and we love writing, and we like a lot of the same movies. Yeah, it definitely felt like a family, and you could tell just how close you guys were. You've worked before, like as an outsider coming in, like you want that. You want to be with a team that's like been there. I interviewed Freddie. Freddie was a fucking like doll, dude. Like he's so awesome, man. I love him. Like,
Wait, I
I'm,
don't want to get any spoilers, but his character, as you can see,
it's
well,
180.
you saw on set, viewers have not seen yet,
Yeah,
but
which I'm not saying anything,
they're
but
gonna be in for a surprise. And like, he is one of the most genuine, sweetest guys you'll ever encounter with. Like, he's just a really
yeah,
great guy and fully on board with the project. And like, and that's what you want, man. You want people that are invested and people that are gonna. You want to also have fun because you're creating art at the same time. So you don't want a stressful environment. And like, that leads me back to like my first film that I made in 2013. And I was young. I'm 35 now. I was 26 at the time and very inexperienced. I didn't go to film school or didn't have much of a film background. Just a guy who was a fan of movies and said, "Oh, let me give this a shot." And really didn't know what I was doing, and it became like very, very stressful and very difficult to get made. And it was like a little over 60 minutes, and I got what I got out of it. I am proud of it, but at the same token, like I also learned from that what not to do.
yeah,
And it was so stressful that like I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take like a 5 year break. I didn't initially say I'm gonna take a 5 year break. It turned into a 5 year break. And then I was like, I just need a break. That this wasn't a great experience. So then finally, like a lightning bolt struck in my head, and I'm like, you know what? I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about filmmaking. I'm passionate about acting. If I don't do this, if I don't get off my ass and start making some movies and start figuring shit out, I'm not gonna ever do this. And I'm just gonna look back one day and I'm gonna say, fuck, why didn't I do this or why didn't I do that?
So I don't know if you probably remember this. You asked me if I wanted to come on and direct Hard Laughter. I don't know if you remember that. And my self confidence was like, I was like, this guy's gonna fucking hate me. But I was like, I've never done a feature, man. I don't know if I can do it. Like I was very scared to do that. And you didn't hold any animosity against me. You were like, no, like all right, it is. I understand, man. I appreciate it. You know, and I kind of regret it only for the fact that like as I get to know you more and you and I are inspired by a lot of the same things, the Chris Farley SNL. Like you say you're into comedy, but all the shit you've made is super dark. So I don't know if you're lying to me or not. But no, um, we just spent like 10 minutes before recording talking about Atlanta, like we Sopranos, we were quoting it all on set. Like you were doing the voice down pat, you were doing lines I didn't even know, like deep cut lines from like season 4 episode 19. I'm like, what the fuck, like, so like I could just tell, like, and that's what I was feeling, even like being around on set, just you guys quoting it and just livening it up. And Andrew has always said this about me, and I appreciate him saying this, but I got this from all of you guys on set. Like, you need someone on set who's going to like not be the jokester, but yeah, be the jokester when the timing is right. Like when things are down and things might be a little like hectic, which some of us have dealt with on set. You need those guys of quoting Sopranos or like Richie talking shit or like Richie and Pete. Like just old. You just need that. But I think it's needed. And to break the fourth wall, as you guys may know, if this is your first episode listening, then you know then I appreciate you guys listening. But for those who've listened before, I like to kind of break the fourth wall a little bit. When these episodes, how this happens is, Gerard just wasn't anyone on Facebook. Like when I was talking to him about it, he was like, dude, I would really like to talk about X, Y, and Z. I think it was the last day on set. and like we had some downtime because actors have that. I was kind of telling you like the ideas I had, and you were like, I would love to talk about this idea, which is artists dealing with rejection. And I say artists, because director, producer, actor. I think I know producer seems more like a numbers game than anything, but there's still an art to that. I'm kind of amazed by the locations you were able to snag and get, because I feel like that's the hardest part for me. Is like right now I write stuff to like knowing what locations I can get.
I'm a Jersey boy, through thick and thin.
Yep.
I would like to say being I'm 35 now and I still live here. I would hope I would know some people in this.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know a guy who knows a guy. No, no, yeah, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But I would, I would think that I would know some people that that's supportive of me and that was willing to do me some favors, and it's pretty much what I did. And luckily, the people that I've asked for were super supportive, and they let us use the locations. uh we did a little, we did some locations where it was like we didn't tell nobody, but like, it is what it is, man. Like it's part of filmmaking sometimes, especially when when you're on a budget and you're trying to make art, and you're trying, you're looking to make a great film, and sometimes you got to bend the rules a little bit.
Man, so there was a film I did in October. It was the first film I was acting in since like COVID really hit, and um we filmed at this seedy ass motel, dude, and like I didn't tell anyone. Like everyone asked me, like, "Yeah, are we good to film here?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem." And yeah, sometimes you have to do that to really get the look and the feel of it. But like even like one location, I don't want to spoil anything, but like one location you worked on, like the guy who was running the location, the store, he was like amazed by like just my acting of me being angry. Like he was just, and then he was like, he followed me on Facebook. He's like followed me on Instagram. I was like, man, that's what it's all about. Is like connecting with people. And I felt like it was really nice to see how you kind of, I'm always like this on set. Like if I bring on, or if I'm brought on as like an AD, or if I bring on, like I just did a film 2 weeks ago. I brought Gina Davis. I brought Gina Rodriguez on. She was like, I loved seeing you work, and it's like that's how I feel like when I go on set. I really love seeing how you conducted yourself as a producer, because like I said, I don't want to really spoil much, but like the first night there was a shit show essentially, and you handled that like perfectly, dude. Like perfectly. So it was nice to see that. I know you were feeling like, this is my first time I'm shooting with these people, and then there's this, and I don't want to come off like the X, Y, and Z. And I get that. I think a lot of artists get that, but I think everyone also knew at the same time, like the actions from the other person were a little like too much. Yeah. So
Dealing with, when you're dealing with actors sometimes too, not saying, we're all a little insane to a degree.
oh,
You know
dude,
what I
yeah.
mean? But it's about controlling your anxiety, and controlling your anxiousness, and controlling your insane.
I mean, my professor said actors are kind of off their rocker because their whole career they want to just be somebody else, like they're striving to be other people. And she kind of said it in a way that was kind of like, I think it's more so some people want to do it for character study, and like for me, I feel like it's like interesting to play like different roles. However, I've done a lot of the same type of roles at this level I'm at, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be that way.
I think people are going to be surprised of you in this film. I don't think I've ever seen you get into this mode of a character before.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, you're seeing it from a producer's eyes, which I appreciate. Yeah, I thought it was dude, and you guys like that one night when Pete's like, "Oh, we found something cool. Let's write a scene around it." And I was like, "Fuck it, more lines? Like, come on, like, right, give it to me." You guys gave me another monologue, like a scene, another scene too. So it was really, really fun.
I'm a firm believer of improvisation on set and creative
Yeah,
on set,
I think that's
but
when you get the best.
all the time, I would say most. I mean, it's a 50-50 split. As
Yeah.
long, like like for this movie, I felt like we pretty much stuck to the script.
Yeah, you could tell Pete was very much like that though. Pete was very much like, we got to stick to it. And it was certain things, and It was certain things. It wasn't every little thing, but like, yeah, no, if he was telling you like how a line should have been or something like that, that's how it should be. And I'm like, yeah, that's I like seeing that, because my style's a little bit different. If there's actors who think like, may I word it, can we word it this way? I was like, yeah, I'll let's do it like on the third take. Let's see how it is. So just so you have options.
Yeah, no,
Um,
exactly. But
yeah,
yeah, I am a firm believer of improvisation, but I do like sticking to the script too. Even in improv, like if there's a scene written and you kind of get off track, but you're still in the scene, like it's
yeah,
okay. It's
yeah,
okay. It's not, like some of the most beautiful things come out of improvisation, in my opinion, in movies and film.
yeah. I mean, we see it. We see it with certain with like certain like on Instagram, it'll be like, oh, the top 10 scenes you didn't know were improvised, like Leonardo DiCaprio smashing his hand on the table in Django Unchained, like that produced really good shit. So what was the reason you wanted to pick this topic to talk about?
Well, I never really did a film that touched on organized crime or family, and I wanted to try to add some depth to it to not just make it a typical, you know, gangster film. I wanted to really make it like a character piece to
Yeah.
make, and not that I want to give anything away because people are going to certainly know soon what the hidden secret is with this movie, but I wanted to really make a character piece and, try to show off everybody's acting chops. And I think the movie's really driven on character and acting. And that's kind of what I wanted to portray with this particular movie. And I think it's going to show well on screen. I really do.
Hmm. Hmm. So why do you feel like most actors feel like a sense of rejection, or they feel like they don't really, like, I don't know, fit in per se. I know it's not just actors, certain artists, and like to talk, I know there was a topic I had about more so like like imposter syndrome, but that's a little bit different. So like why do you think actors, actresses, artists in general might feel some sort of rejection?
I think it's a business that even if you're at the top, you're dealing with rejection. Like, for example, like The Theory of Everything with Eddie Redmayne. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that film. I thought it was a great,
Yeah.
and I thought Eddie Redmayne delivered a killer performance with that. But you don't think like Zach Efron would have liked that part, or like another kind of actor would have liked that part, or you know what I mean? Like other actors are probably saying to themselves, like Daniel Radcliffe, like I would have loved to have played that, like
Yeah.
so like I feel like there's actors that like you're dealing with rejection no matter if you're at the bottom or if you're at the top. And even if you're at the top, you still like let's say you get an offer, you still got to meet with the director or the producer and talk to them about it, like so technically that's still an audition. So
Yeah.
you're auditioning forever in this business, in my opinion, whether you're at the bottom or you're at the top.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because even like, you hear stories of um what's that movie? Like Inglorious Bastards. I think like Tarantino came over to like, or Brad Pitt went over to like Tarantino's like vineyard or some shit like that. And it's a famous story. Like Brad Pitt's like a few bottles of wine, a few bowls of the green, and then we ended up like saying, fuck it, we'll do it. But it's kind of like, still like, it's even if you're doing that, right, you're still auditioning, as I do, air quotes, because you have to sell yourself. Even though you're Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, like, you still have to sell yourself with certain directors, I feel like.
Absolutely. You always do. And in my case, I've been auditioning for man 10 plus years, bro. And like I was up for a movie before COVID. I think it's on Netflix now. I think it's called Once Upon a Time in Staten Island or something like that. I know it's on Netflix, and it's the director of The Purge. And they were
Okay.
filming in I met Pete Davidson actually, ran
Wow.
into Nutley, and we were filming our movie the next day. But it was that same director. I forgot his name now, but I was up for this film. circa 2019. They called me in to audition 6 times, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So finally, I ended up doing a FaceTime with the casting and the producers. And it was just they didn't even really want me to do lines. They just wanted me to basically interact the way, like you mentioned, like Tarantino and Brad Pitt interacting. And it was virtual, like like what we're doing right now. And they ended up going with somebody younger. But it's just like I've been close to. I was up for the Many Saints of Newark. I've read for shows like Black Mirror. I've read for Law and Order. I've read for Pose. I've read for Louis, which was on FX before Louis C.K. became Louis C.K. The cat out of the bag came out.
Yeah,
Him. I've been up for a lot of things, bro, and I've been so close to so many things. So
cat out of bag. That's a good term right there.
yeah,
Because he let
and
he let some shit out of the bag.
yeah, yeah. So I'm thankful that I get to put myself in front of these casting directors, and it's just like when you deal with like not having your career in your hands. That's where like the filmmaking came into play, where it's like, okay, like I'm gonna try to do this stuff on my own, and create my own material and create my own parts, and put my own films out there, and the other stuff will come. So luckily, that has been a very powerful output in dealing with rejection, is to
I mean, that's kind of like the same exact way. I feel the same exact way, but then there's times where I'm like, am I doing it wrong? Because I think, and maybe this is me just being a little salty, but
self-conscious, man. It's
yeah,
totally normal. It's totally
it
normal.
is, but it's also like, man, like I feel like sometimes it's all about who you know. Like I really hate to say it like that, but it seems that way, man. It seems that it's like, okay, if you know someone and they're able to kind of like hook you up or like put you in front of the right people and then you succeed, then yeah, I feel like if you're completely if you're I feel like if you're completely ass at something, you're not gonna get casted, you're not gonna get the job. Personally, I don't think you are, but there has to be that certain like quality about you or about what you can bring to the table that people will be like, this son of a bitch. It's it. But I think it's all about like who you know, and it goes back to what your dad said. The one set of eyes. It's one pair of eyes. People want to say like, oh, Hollywood producers aren't coming to New Jersey festivals and looking for the next X, Y, and Z. Okay, maybe not. Maybe they are. Maybe not. But we're right next to New York, and you can put your film in a festival that goes to L.A., that goes to Atlanta, that goes to Chicago, where someone there can look at it and be like, holy shit, like let's talk to these guys. So as much as people want to be, people want to claim as they're realistic, I think it's more so negative. Like I try to be really really positive about like, because I am not the most positive person, but when it comes to this, I feel like I'm 34. Like it's either I've worked too hard for like something not to happen, in my opinion. Now, do I write all the time? If I call myself a writer, do I write a lot? No, but I'm doing a lot of acting. I'm working on 2 projects before my baby girl comes, and by the time this comes out, she will be here. But I'm trying really hard. Even like I was asking you and another buddy of mine, hey, can I get footage for an acting reel? And everyone's like, hold up, like I need to edit it. Like I'm like, I get that. Okay, cool. No, everyone, it makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. No, 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 no. But I was just saying that, and more so of like, I'm trying to, I edit for my day job, so like putting together an acting reel won't take me any time. All my acting reels I've done have taken me like from opening to closing probably like an hour, maybe hour and a half. I'll send it to people. People will give me notes. So maybe that's what I'm doing right now. But like I'm trying to stay busy and trying to work as much as I can. Um, but yeah, no, I think artists are afraid to. I think I don't know about you. I'm definitely afraid to fail, and I think I'm more so afraid, like not. If I failed, I don't know who would be disappointed. I always wonder this, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Do you ever wonder, like, if you decide just to step away from this life, like, what would people think of you? Do you ever think that way or not really?
The time, man, and I feel like if I'm not putting forth any kind of creative material in terms of acting or auditioning or writing or making anything, I feel this kind of loneliness and emptiness. Like, like those 5 years that I took from Fratello to Hard Laughter, like, I was okay. I was healthy. I was living my life. But at the same token, I did feel this form of emptiness, man, where it's like,
Yeah.
fuck, if I don't do, like, I'm missing this. Other people probably don't feel that way, but like I know I do in terms of this business where it's like, if I'm not doing something, then I feel this form of like failure or emptiness. Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
And it's all normal feelings to have. Um, it is, man. But keeping yourself busy and doing things a little differently, like I admire you for like doing your own material and putting yourself out there and creating your reels and like you've met a ton of people, man. I'm sure over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years by doing your own stuff. Like how many can and you talk about now, we're on your podcast and I don't know what number guest I am. I'm sure I'm like towards like the top 50, I would say. But look at all the people that you have come across and the people that you're meeting and the people you've met and the people that you're going to meet. So
Mhm.
give yourself a round of applause for that, for that, man. And putting forth an awesome podcast, that deals with mental health and the arts and making your own stuff and auditioning and you know au- just give yourself a round of applause for that.
Thanks, man. I do appreciate that. And I did forget even asking you that. I did forget you did walk away for 5 years. So you kind of know, like it's not that I forgot. I didn't know that about you really. So it's kind of fresh in my brain where I didn't really know that you did that because you don't. I don't know. I feel like you don't. And maybe I'm wrong here, but you don't seem like the type of person that gets jaded quickly. Maybe you were trying to figure just you were just like everyone else does. You were trying to figure a lot of shit out, but like you're very much like I don't know, like there's that air of confidence in you with the set. Like if shit happens, whether it's raining or other things happen, you're like the show still goes on kind of thing. So it's very interesting to see that, and then yeah, for you to step away, because I do think about that. I was like, how would I be? It's I don't want to compare myself to this, but it's like um it's kind of like you know like an athlete. You wonder, like we're both big sports fans. It's kind of like you know walking away from like something you absolutely love. Like athletes have a little bit more of like, oh well, injury and I've family and things of that nature that have kind of like that come to come to that. Maybe their competitive edge isn't there anymore, or their competitive edge is, but their body can't handle it. For us, it's kind of like, I wouldn't say, you know, I think like you said, there's that emptiness, there's that void that like we all just want to fill because, you know,
Yeah. And the thing is with me too, like I love acting and I love making movies, but the first experience was so bad and so stressful. But I was also young. Like if you put myself now into those 27-year-old shoes making that movie, I think it would be a lot more organized and we'd be a lot more prepared. Like I was just very inexperienced. Like I had a hard time memorizing my lines and I didn't really know how to lock down locations and like tell actors where to be. It was just like a mess of a production, but it was rough. And
Yeah.
like there's this is kind of on subject, but there's this graduation speech that Jim Carrey made. I want to say in like 2013 or 2014. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but
Mhm.
I like to revisit that and watch that, man, for inspiration and to like if I ever feel down, like or like just like down on my luck. I love to revisit that and just you know it brings such a glare of faith that's just like stay with it. You're on the right track. Just keep going. And he said a quote about his father that he said his father was a very talented comedian and he gave up his dreams of being a comedian to pay the bills and support his family. So Jim Carrey quoted, he said, "You could fail at what you don't love, so you might as well take a shot, take a chance, and do something that you love. Take a shot and do what you love. So if you love something, go do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it." And that's what was kind of drilled into my head. And like as we got closer to my second movie, I'm like, I have to do this. I just have to do this.
I think it's a lot of stuff where you just, if you don't do it, like then you're never going to. Like I'm a big guy. I do need to lose weight. I'm going to the gym, and I'm starting to go to the gym, and it's like, if I'm doing workouts, my buddy recommended me that like I might enjoy more than your typical like killing your body. It's biking and swimming. He's like, find out some swimming exercises. You work out a lot. It's great for cardio. And I love swimming, but like there's times where I would, I'm all the time like I'll go tomorrow, I'll go the next day. And it never happens. It's the same exact thing as what you're speaking on. You're speaking on, you know, um talking yourself out of it. There's a difference between, you know, taking a break that like you were going to take a 2-year break, but it leads to 5 years, but at least you got back on that fucking horse. That's what's very important, And I think from seeing Hard Laughter and then seeing what I was on set with Dress Code, I think, and I tell this to people all the time, I don't want them to ever get offended. You got like you grew exponentially. Like your acting, your the style of it, that was in your head. Like this has been in your head since 2019. So for you to kind of get your style and vision on, from paper that Pete wrote to screen, like I feel like that's a million different ways. Like there was really good lighting in this movie. When Hard Laughter, there wasn't that good lighting, but that might not be on you per se. That might be on the crew and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you get better each time. Like I said, I just did a short film, the last weekend of April 2022, and my buddy I do my podcast Ranting and Raving with, Steve, he wanted to act in it again, and we did a film Instant that like him and I just did, but that was like bare bones crew. We shot all of it outside, most of it outside. It looked okay, but like this, we had a crew of like 10 people on this, or like we had a crew of like 6 or 7 people and a cast of 5. So like we had a lot of people for this one, and he was able to kind of just sit back and act with real actors, versus like someone like I consider myself a real actor, but these are like all the actresses he worked with have been doing it for a lot longer than I have. So he was able to feed off that, right? And he got so much better at that. And that's what I saw with you, man. You were acting around people who were like fucking legit, and it just brings the best out in you, better than it did in Hard Laughter. Not saying Hard Laughter was garbage, but you were acting along some really good fucking people, and I think that just brings out the best in you.
Yeah, always, man. And you surround yourself. You surround you like, how do I word this? But like you're surrounded. You become who you surround yourself with a lot of the times. And like you surround yourself with good actors and good crew members, you're gonna be good.
Yeah.
Like it even goes with like a sports analogy. Let's say let's use like like as great as Derek Jeter was as a ball player, his surroundings were great. Jorge
Yeah.
Posada was a great player. Bertie Williams was a great player. Tino Martinez was a great player.
I
Like
mean,
so he had
yeah.
a great supporting cast, and that goes for movies and it goes for sports. It goes for life, man. Really,
I mean, like, yeah, people want to say that, like, they want to do the Jordan LeBron comparison. LeBron had nobody. Jordan had, Pippen and Rodman. But, like, yeah, I mean, like, it's all about your supporting cast. Like, I know, in this industry, we get, individual awards, except, best film, some festivals have best ensemble, best cast, but, like, it's true, like when a director wins an award, I think it's attributes to his team around him or her team around, you know and I think even like acting too, even if it's a movie or short film where it's one cast member, two cast members, someone's still pushing you, you know So I think that's really, really important. So
Actors have a lot to it has a lot to do with the writing. If it's good
yeah,
material and it's a good script and if it's a good story, it's going to show on screen. If it's a shitty story or if it's a story that, that's not really good, it's not gonna play well to an audience, and it's just gonna be a forgotten film. And I
exactly.
think at the end of the day, you want to make movies that stand over time. You want to make stuff
Mhm.
that's just not forgotten about. You want to make things that stay with an audience for a while. Oh my God, you remember that scene, or you remember that
Exactly.
you remember when that actor did that, or do you remember the shot that they got in that
Yeah.
movie? So
Yeah.
you want to make things that are impactful. And I think a lot of it has to do in terms of acting. I think it starts with the writing. I think it starts with the material. And if the material is good, it's gonna show the best. It's gonna show the best for an actor.
Exactly. I think it's, I don't know what the correct verbiage of this is, but like good writing I think would help out an okay actor. In my opinion. Good writing, good story. But I don't know if a really good actor could help out shitty writing.
Like I feel like anybody, like as good as talented as Tom Hanks is, I feel like a lot of actors could have played Saving Private Ryan just because it was shot so well, and the
Yeah.
costumes and the makeup and everything else was just so well done with that movie. I feel like
Anyone could have just stepped in and done it.
the actors could have
Yeah.
played Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was gonna say you could pull Edward Norton and just rewrite, the writer's script on set, but like we don't have the power to do that. to that. Um,
Talked about your small knit crew. Like sometimes less is better. Sometimes you
yeah,
have more voices and it gets more opinionated, and people get in their heads, and it gets off track from what you're trying to make.
that's
So
funny
I
you said
feel
that,
like
and
I feel like a
that's
bare bones crew, man, or a bare minimum crew sometimes is the best. Like we didn't have a big crew for dress code, and that was awesome, man.
you had. It was a fucking walk. Yeah, it was a walk on the beach. No, you had Andrew, Malachi, and Eric, and Joe. Sorry, Joe. Yeah, Joe. Joe was yeah. Joe was the yeah. Joe. I felt like Joe, you, Pete were great like producers too.
Yeah, and Joe was very helpful on set. Joe never directed before, and Pete had this vision. Once he had his first draft of dress code, we met right before the pandemic happened, and he was like, "Look, I want Joe to direct this thing." I go, "Who is this guy? Like, what do you mean? Like, he's never directed before? What?" Then, as I grew to really know Joe and talk about the project, one, we became really good friends.
Yeah.
Two, like, he knows what the fuck he's doing. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he
Yeah.
wanted out of me. Like,
I don't know how many times I pulled up to set and he was just in his car, writing, taking notes, like just preparing himself. Like I'm not saying I've been around a few directors, mainly when I was in college, and not like my friends from college, just sets I've worked on where they were banged out on fucking like Percocet or fucked up. Um, I feel like even like before I filmed my shit, someone's like, "Oh, do you want to smoke?" I'm like, I gotta have a clear head. And I know it might sound silly to some, but like if I wake up kind of like still like foggy, I don't need to be behind on like, I need to be sharp. For me anyway, I need to be sharp as fuck. Um, but yeah, man. Yeah. So would you say, I guess your first feature film was the first time you really felt like just rejected from the industry, or was it prior to that?
just felt like I failed. Like, I felt like there was a failure. I felt like
Did anyone tell you that you failed, or was it just all coming from you?
coming from me, nobody really said like that. Well, the camera guy that I hired for this movie, like he wasn't really uplifting or trying to make anybody feel better on set. Like he would just be behind the camera and be like, "Well, that sucked," like and shit like that, which was so disheartening. Like I remember like coming home from the first day. I was younger too, though, man. Like I was only
Yeah.
26, 26 or 27, and like
It's young, man. In the grand scheme of
yeah,
doing stuff, it's very young.
yeah, and I was just like, like I just felt like, I don't want to do this. This was brutal. And for a little film that it was, it's pretty good, man. Is it great? No. But it's definitely a movie that I learned and grew from. But yeah, it was all from within, man. And like, he didn't really make me feel any better. This guy I hired, I found him on a website, mandy.com, which I don't even know if it is still around. But
I hope that shit's
I
burnt
found
down,
him
bro.
there, went to his house. He lived down like he lived in South Jersey, and you got to always look at things from a positive perspective. And I always try to look at things like, even if something doesn't work out, oh, well, something better is going to arise, is going to come about. Or like, you always, even like in relationships, or like, well, I'm a single guy, you're married, but like, even if it doesn't work out with a girl, I'll be like, well, that happened for a reason. Or, like, there's a reason to everything that you do. And the best thing that came out of that movie was I got a great composer, who's Stefan Swanson, who's scoring Dress Code. He scored Hard Laughter, and he's gonna score pretty much every movie that I do. So, um, you got to look at everything from a positive perspective, and like, looking at that, it's like, wow, well, if I didn't do that, then I wouldn't have found him.
I mean, that's how I feel too, really, like that's how I feel. And, you pull some type of sunshine out of a really, really shitty situation. And it's, I've been very grateful and working with really good DPs, but I've been on set as like other crew or background where our DPs seem to have a lot of like just an attitude. I don't know what it is, man. It's because maybe they think like, oh, I'm shooting your film, like you gotta kind of. But for them to, well, that sucked. Like, who says that? Like, who, like you need someone to. And listen, if it did suck, okay. If it did suck, he should pull you aside and be like, I don't think that's working. There's different ways of saying.
Yeah. Yeah. He goes, well, that sucked. And I was like, well, that's great. But like, when it was all said and done, I think like, I'm thankful for it, because again, man, I didn't pay thousands of dollars for a film education. This is a guy who liked was acting and loved movies and shows, and was like, okay, let me try doing this on my own. And that was like phase one of film school for me. And I'm still in film school technically, man. I'm
Junior
still
year.
learning. If I'm not learning and growing with each film I'm doing, then I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, man. It's just I think some people need to. I think some people can also learn from not need to be so like harsh about stuff. If they kind of know it's your first film, they should kind of, in my opinion, kind of give you a little bit of break. But uh,
And I'm starting to get better at not taking it personal, because
yeah,
it's just whether they're looking for that look or not. It's really based upon, like, I feel obviously the acting chops are important, but I feel like they're just looking for a look most of the time. And like,
a
they
lot
have
of
to
people
see if
said that. I agree.
they have to see if the look fits the role that you're reading for. So I'm still learning, but I've learned to not take it so personal, and I'm a sensitive guy to begin with. It's just who I am. I don't know if it's because I'm a Libra, if it's my zodiac sign, or whatever the case may be, but I'm a very sensitive guy. And I've just learned to just, on to the
Yeah,
next, and not take it so personal. I've had auditions where I've knocked it out of the park. I've had auditions where I've literally walked out of the room, like, where I said, I can't get the words out. I can't, like, this was before the pandemic. I was up for a show, and there was a bunch of dudes that, kind of looked like me, or along the lines of, my similar look. And I'm like the fourth one in. I'm in the waiting. I go in, and I do my slate, and she says, "Okay, we're ready." And she did the line, and I couldn't get the lines out. I was like, uh, uh, uh,
um,
and I go, "It's not gonna happen." And so I walked out, and that was it. I was so upset, but sometimes it happens, man. Like, auditioning is not a fun process, but you got to try to teach it. You got to not teach it. You got to try to make it fun, because if you don't make it fun, then this business is not for you.
no,
Because again, like, I'm rehashing what I said earlier. Every actor, if you're in this business and you're acting, you're auditioning forever. Whether you're at the top or you're at the bottom, you're always auditioning. You're always auditioning. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, that's what it is. Like, and you have to learn to like it. And I'm still, to this day, growing to try to. I'm still getting to that place where I'm trying to like it. I'm trying to like it, but like, there was an actors roundtable. Nicolas Cage even quote. He goes, "Oh, it sucks. Well, auditioning it's not fun." And that weird accent. It's not fun. That weirdo. Yeah.
yeah, I
Anyway,
can't do it.
yeah, but
It's not
uh,
fun.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's just not fun. It's dreadful. I think he said dreadful. it's dreadful. And and that's the thing too. Like, everything's been self-tape now since the pandemic, and like I like it, but I don't like it. Like I like it because I don't have to commute to the city and pay for parking and grind and in those dingy elevators in those very cold offices. But but also too at when you're doing it virtually, it's like you don't get a feeler like a personality, like like how you and I vibe on set, like or like it's more so like you're putting yourself on camera to a stranger, whereas in person you're still in front of a room of strangers, but at least it's a little bit more intimate. Whereas,
Yeah,
so I don't know. I mean,
more
I like it.
intimate.
I'm like, I love it. I love it and I hate it. Like there's pros and cons to it.
No, of course. That's I think that's the life of being an artist. You love, you hate. Yeah, was it you love to do it, but you simultaneously like absolutely hate everything about it. Like there's no like one way or the other. The To wrap it up, was there any advice you could give to an artist, whether it be a newer artist, someone who has been doing this for almost 10 years, like you and I. Any advice on dealing with rejection? Not even just landing a role, but it's like dealing with rejection in general. Things that you've learned from your past.
I've learned that there's some good positive thinking meditation techniques that you could follow. There's a ton of them on YouTube. I try to listen to them every night before bed or in the morning before I start my day. That that is very beneficial. I also think to just do it. Like like if you want to be an actor, then make a short. You want to be a director, then make a movie or write something or submit yourself to auditions or get yourself involved in any way, shape, or form. Uh, just do it. Don't talk the talk, walk the walk, and do it the same way. Like that's one thing I will say that I'm not looking for a pat on the back, but that's one thing that I will say that me and you do. We don't talk the talk, we walk it, we do it. Like, we go out and we do it. So if you're serious about doing it, then get yourself involved. Get Submit yourself. There's Actors Access, there's casting networks. You submit yourself to projects, you create your own projects. There's ways to get yourself involved. And like I know how many people have you met in these last 7 years by doing your own how
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I've met a lot of people, and I was, not that. I don't know if it would fall into it, but yeah, I've met a lot of people. So I think it's been very beneficial. Some I've fallen out of touch with. Some I think it's just that's just life. That's not even necessarily being a life of an artist. But I think it's just good on who you know, and then you end up plucking like, okay, I want to work with this person again. For me, like I like working with a different crew every time. Now, my films are going to look completely different. Like that's I kind of know that in my mind. I'm like, well, that's going to be a given, right? But not all of my movies are, excuse me, the exact same genre. So that's I kind of like pick people for what I think will be good. I know I keep referring to it just because it was so fresh in my head about like 10 days ago. I wanted Gina Rodriguez on because I think she's really talented. She's funny. She's funny as fuck. Like she knows her way around comedy, and she added a lot to the part. She just added, yeah, she added so much to things I wasn't seeing, and she was able to see like, okay, well, what if you said it this way, that way, and it just added to it. So yeah, I think it's, you kind of all do that. I don't know if you feel that way where you work with different crews or casts, but man, I can't see you not working with anyone else besides people from Dress Code, because I felt like everyone was about it. Like you just said, like we were all about like filming late night, having to come back maybe the next day or the day after. And I like how you conducted it. It was like I went on set at like 3 o'clock. I was done. We were done by 8. When we got to have a meal in there, like you didn't like overstep, over push. Like you,
I I'm a firm believer of it's just not realistic to do 20 pages in one day.
No.
Come on, man, that's crazy. You want to keep it loose and comfortable, and again,
Yeah.
friendly family atmosphere. If you're doing 20 pages in one day, like, like even Andrew, like we were talking, he shot it before he started our film. He did another film where he's like, we did one location, we got a feature film done in 5 days. I'm like,
Wait, repeat yourself? Yeah, what you doing? 20 pages a day? What the fuck?
yeah, like he said they got it done in like 5 days, and it was one location. Whereas our movie, we needed a ton of shit. We needed a ton of locations. But
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right. It was
hey,
different. Yeah.
if you can make a feature, like
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was. I think it was a horror movie, so that horror movies definitely can pull that off too. Psychological thrillers, they could pull that off. So, but yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on and talking. I know we talked a little bit about your film, and yeah, we talked.
we got a secret project too that we were gonna start a couple months ago that got a little sidetracked because of life. But I'm thinking we're gonna get that going too, maybe this summer.
Yeah, I can't wait, dude. We FaceTimed about it. And we were just laughing our ass off. So, and it's some of the people from Dress Code. It's some people we've worked with in the past. So I'm really really excited, dude. And thank you for coming on and talking about just what you've gone through as an artist. And I love what you said about like the advice, man, just go out and do it, because I think that's what you did. You went out, you did it. In your mind you think you failed or you didn't succeed, but now look where you're at. You're about to wrap your third feature film. Like, I've never done a feature before. Like, that's very inspiring. So, and this third feature film is you're probably going to watch it and be like, this is light years ahead of Fratello. And that just goes to show you like how you have become as an artist. So thanks again, man, for hopping on. And for everyone else, man, this is Where's My Mind, a podcast about mental health and the arts. I'm Chris Orangeo, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chris.
Once again, this is Where Is My Mind, a podcast about mental health and the arts. I'm host and producer of the podcast, Christopher Orangeo. All episodes will be available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, and Amazon Music. Once again, this is Chris Orangeo, and thank you for supporting. Once again, this is Where Is My Mind, a podcast about mental health and the arts. I'm host and producer of the podcast, Christopher Orangeo. All episodes will be available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, and Amazon Music. Once again, this is Chris Orangeo, and thank you for supporting.